The rain was a drumbeat on the windshield, but it was the unfamiliar pickup truck that truly shattered the night. Life in Seattle, at 35, was supposed to be predictable. Jason Miller, manager at a tech firm, 10 years married to Alyssa, 2 kids, Mia, 8, and Leo, 6. Our house in the suburbs, with its manicured lawn and 2-car garage, was the picture of quiet American success. We planned a romantic evening, just the 2 of us. Candlelight, a bottle of that expensive Cabernet Alyssa loved, maybe a movie. So, I'd driven the kids an hour and a half to my parents' place, battling Friday night traffic and Leo's endless, "Are we there yet?" The drive back was supposed to be filled with anticipation. Instead, it was filled with dread. I pulled into our driveway at 12:30 a.m., the late hour a result of my dad cornering me with stories about his golf game. And that's when I saw it. A dark blue Ford F-150, parked a little too close to our curb, a little too casually. Not ours, not a neighbor's, definitely not a delivery. A cold knot tightened in my stomach. My first thought was a break-in. Seattle isn't exactly a crime haven, but you never know. I grabbed the heavy flashlight from under the seat, my heart already thrumming a frantic rhythm against my ribs. The rain, a steady drizzle now, slicked the pavement. The house was dark, save for a faint glow from the master bedroom window, a warm, inviting light that now felt sinister. I didn't go through the front door. Instinct, that primal, gut-wrenching feeling, told me to be quiet, to be unseen. I slipped around to the side, past the rose bushes Alyssa tended so meticulously, and fumbled with the lock on the basement door. It creaked open, a sound that seemed deafening in the still night. The air in the basement was cool, damp, smelling faintly of old laundry and dust. I moved silently, each step deliberate, up the creaking wooden stairs to the main floor. The house was quiet, too quiet. Then I heard it. Muffled voices from upstairs. Lyssa's voice, a low murmur. And another voice. A man's. Not mine. My breath hitched. The flashlight felt heavy, useless. My hand started to tremble, a tremor that ran through my entire body. This wasn't a break-in. This was something far, far worse. The air thickened, heavy with unspoken truths, with the scent of betrayal. My home, my sanctuary, felt suddenly alien, tainted. I pulled out my phone, my fingers fumbling with the screen. The video recorder. My thumb hovered over the record button. What was I doing? Was I really about to record the destruction of my own life? The thought was grotesque, but the urge to document, to capture the undeniable proof, was overwhelming. My reflection in the dark phone screen was a distorted, terrified mask. I crept closer, up the last few steps, pausing at the top of the stairs. The voices were clearer now. Lyssa's laugh, a man's deeper chuckle, a sound that ripped through me like a jagged blade. I pushed open the bedroom door just enough to see, and there they were. Lyssa, in our bed with Trevor. Trevor, her colleague from work. Trevor, who'd been at our last barbecue, laughing with me over a beer. My hand shook so violently, I almost dropped the phone. But I held it steady, the red recording light a tiny, accusing eye. I filmed every agonizing second. The casual intimacy, the shocking betrayal. My vision blurred, but I kept recording, the lens capturing the scene with a horrifying clarity. The muffled sounds of their intimacy, once a distant hum, now a piercing shriek in my ears. Then, a sudden movement. Lyssa looked up, her eyes wide with shock. Trevor scrambled, a panicked animal caught in a trap. He fumbled for his clothes, his face a mask of terror. As he bolted for the door, I managed to snap a quick photo of his driver's license, which he'd left on the nightstand. A small, cold victory in a sea of devastation. Lyssa, still in the bed, pulled the sheets up, her face a mixture of shame and a desperate, almost comical attempt at composure. "Jason, what are you doing here?" she gasped, her voice a strained whisper. "I was just getting ready for a bath. Trevor was just helping me with a work thing." A work thing. At 12:30 in the morning. In our bed. The sheer absurdity of it made my stomach churn. Trevor, meanwhile, was gone, a blur of panicked movement down the stairs. The front door slammed shut, echoing through the silent house. Lyssa sat there, frozen, her eyes fixed on me, on the phone still clutched in my trembling hand. The air was thick with unspoken accusations, with the bitter taste of lies. I didn't say a word. Couldn't. My throat was constricted, my lungs burning. I just stared at her, the woman I loved, the mother of my children, caught in the act. The silence stretched, unbearable, suffocating. What do you say when your entire world implodes? How do you even begin to pick up the pieces? I turned and walked away, the video still playing in my mind, a horrifying loop. I went to the guest room, locked the door, and sank onto the bed, the cold reality of what I'd just witnessed washing over me. The video, a digital scar, was now on my phone, and I couldn't stop looking at it. Over and over, 10 times a day, maybe more. Each viewing a fresh stab, a new wave of nausea, a deeper descent into a pain I didn't know was possible. Lisa noticed, of course, my silence, my withdrawn demeanor, the way I flinched when she tried to touch me. "Are you okay, honey?" she'd ask, her voice laced with a concern that felt utterly fake. "You seem distant." Distant. The irony was a bitter laugh in my throat. I just mumbled something about stress at work, about being tired. I couldn't bring myself to confront her. Not yet. The pain was too raw, too overwhelming. What do you do when the woman you swore to spend your life with betrays you so completely? When the evidence is undeniable, yet you can't force yourself to speak the words that would shatter everything. Do you pretend? Do you suffer in silence? Or do you seek answers from strangers, from the anonymous void of the internet? My hand, still trembling, reached for my laptop. Reddit. Maybe someone there had been through this. Maybe someone there knew what to do. The video played on loop. My life, reduced to a few horrifying seconds. The guest room, usually a haven of quiet solitude, had become my personal purgatory. The video, a cruel digital scar, was burned into my retina. Lisa and Trevor. Over and over. 10 times a day, sometimes more. Each viewing was a fresh stab, a new wave of nausea that churned in my stomach, a deeper descent into a pain I didn't know was possible. My hands, still trembling, would clench around the phone, the cold metal a stark contrast to the burning fury inside me. Lisa, meanwhile, moved through the house like a ghost, or perhaps like an actress in a play I hadn't auditioned for. Her voice, laced with a concern that felt utterly fake, would float through the door. "Are you okay, honey? You seem distant." Distant. The irony was a bitter laugh in my throat. I just mumbled something about stress at work, about being tired. I couldn't bring myself to confront her. Not yet. The pain was too raw, too overwhelming. It was like trying to breathe underwater. What do you say when the woman you swore to spend your life with betrays you so completely? When the evidence is undeniable, yet you can't force yourself to speak the words that would shatter everything. Do you pretend? Do you suffer in silence? Or do you seek answers from strangers, from the anonymous void of the internet? My hand, still trembling, reached for my laptop. Reddit. A digital confessional for the broken. The screen glowed, a cold, blue light in the darkness of the room. I navigated to our /off me chest, the subreddit dedicated to unburdening one's soul. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, the plastic keys feeling alien beneath them. What would I even write? How do you condense a decade of shared life, 2 children, and a gut-wrenching betrayal into a few paragraphs for strangers? I recorded my wife cheating on me, and I can't stop watching it. That was the title. Raw, honest, desperate. I typed out the story, omitting names, blurring details, but pouring out the agonizing truth. The romantic evening planned, the drive to my parents', the unexpected early return, the unfamiliar pickup truck, the creaking basement stairs, the muffled voices, the sickening realization, the trembling hands, the red recording light, Lisa's pathetic work thing excuse, Trevor's panicked escape, and my current obsession with the video, the constant replaying of my own humiliation. I hit post. The click of the mouse echoed in the silent room, a tiny sound that felt monumental. And then I waited. The hum of the laptop fan was the only sound, a low, constant drone that mirrored the buzzing in my head. Could strangers truly offer clarity where his own life was a blur? Was this courage or just cowardice hiding behind a screen? The responses came quickly. Hundreds, then thousands. A torrent of empathy, outrage, advice. Dude, I'm so sorry. Get a lawyer immediately. She's gaslighting you. Don't tell her you know yet. Gather more evidence. The comments scrolled by a chaotic, overwhelming wave of digital voices. Some were harsh, some compassionate, some alarmingly practical. One comment in particular caught my eye. It wasn't about revenge or anger. It was about patterns. My ex did something similar, it read. Always at a work thing or a girls' night. Turns out, it wasn't just the affair. She was hiding something else. Financial, mostly. Always keep an eye on the money, even if it seems okay. Betrayal rarely travels alone. Financial. The word snagged in my mind. Lissa handled most of her joint accounts, the business finances. She was good with money, meticulous. Or so I thought. A new suspicion, cold and insidious, began to coil in my gut. Was there more to this than just a physical betrayal? Was this unfamiliar pickup truck, this clandestine affair, just the tip of a much larger, darker iceberg? I scrolled back up, rereading the comment. Betrayal rarely travels alone. The words resonated with a chilling clarity. It was a new angle, a new layer to the already unbearable pain. The symbolic image that formed in my mind was a perfectly polished apple, seemingly wholesome, but with a wormhole drilled deep into its core, hinting at rot within. The sheer volume of advice, the conflicting opinions, was dizzying. But that one comment, that single, quiet suggestion had planted a seed. A seed of doubt, yes, but also a seed of purpose. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was a detective, searching for a deeper truth. I closed the laptop, the screen going dark, reflecting my own grim face. The video was still on my phone, a constant, agonizing reminder. But now a new mission had emerged. Before I confronted Lissa, before I shattered our world completely, I needed to know everything. Every secret, every lie. And I had a terrifying feeling that what I would uncover would make the affair itself seem almost trivial. The hum of the laptop fan faded, replaced by the relentless thrumming of my own thoughts. The game had just changed. The apple had a worm, and I was about to find its rotten core. The Reddit comment, that quiet whisper about betrayal rarely traveling alone, had planted a seed. A cold, hard seed of suspicion that began to sprout in the fertile ground of my agony. The video of Lissa and Trevor, once an all-consuming horror, now felt like a mere prologue. My focus shifted from the searing pain of infidelity to the chilling calculation of financial deception. The guest room, my self-imposed exile, became my war room. The only scent that mattered now was the faint, papery smell of old bank statements and the metallic tang of my own fear. Lissa, meanwhile, continued her performance. She'd leave little notes on the counter. Thinking of you, honey. Her voice, a little too bright, would float up the stairs. I'm off to yoga, darling. Be back in a couple of hours. Yoga. Or perhaps another clandestine meeting. The thought was a bitter pill, but I swallowed it, maintaining my own charade of the distracted, stressed-out husband. My silence, once a sign of my pain, was now a shield, a weapon. I started with our joint accounts. Lissa managed most of our finances, a task she'd always handled with meticulous precision. Or so I thought. The online banking portal, usually a quick glance at balances, became a forensic workstation. The cool glow of the screen reflected my grim face as I scrolled through months of transactions, looking for anything out of place. Every click of the mouse, every line of numbers, felt like turning a page in a very dark book. At first, nothing. Just the usual flow of income from the daily grind, our salaries, household expenses. Then, a subtle anomaly. A series of small, recurring payments to an unfamiliar vendor. Global marketing solutions. The amounts are insignificant on their own. A few $100s here, 1,000 there, easily lost in the noise of our busy lives. But they were consistent. Too consistent. And I had no recollection of ever contracting a global marketing solutions. What do you do when the very foundation of your shared life, the money you build together, starts to feel like a house of cards? When every transaction, every number, becomes a potential clue in a conspiracy you never imagined. The rhetorical questions hammered at my mind, relentless. I cross-referenced the dates. Many of these marketing payments coincided with Lissa's girls' nights or her supposed yoga classes. A cold shiver ran down my spine. The pieces were starting to fit, forming a sickening mosaic of deceit that extended far beyond a hotel room tryst. The symbolic image that kept flashing in my mind was a meticulously crafted spreadsheet, rows and columns of numbers, each one a silent scream of betrayal. Then came the first major twist. I found a hidden folder on her laptop, buried deep within a seemingly innocuous recipes directory. It was password protected. My heart hammered against my ribs. This was it, the real secret. I tried a few obvious passwords. Her birthday, our anniversary, the kids' names. Nothing. Then, on a whim, I typed in Tom Hayes. The folder opened. Inside, it wasn't recipes. It was a ledger, a meticulously kept, highly detailed ledger of transactions. Not just the global marketing solutions payments, but larger sums. Transfers to offshore accounts, disguised as investments. Loans to shell companies I'd never heard of. And alongside each entry, a small, cryptic note. TH commission. LM cut. LM. My initials. My wife's initials. She wasn't just complicit. She was an active participant. A partner in crime, literally. The affair with Tom wasn't just about sex. It was a front. A cover for something far more insidious. A way to distract me while they systematically siphoned money from our business. The metallic tang in the air grew stronger, the scent of cold, hard cash and colder, harder lies. The amount was staggering. Hundreds of thousands. Over the past year. Money from the daily grind. Our dream, our empire, systematically bled dry by the very person I trusted most. The rage that had been simmering beneath the surface erupted, a silent, volcanic explosion. I scrolled further. There were communications, encrypted messages with Tom, discussing new opportunities and expanding the network. It wasn't just our business. They were involved in something larger, a network of financial fraud that extended beyond Seattle. Tom, the seducer, was just one piece of Lissa's elaborate puzzle. He was a partner, yes, but she was the architect. A floorboard creaked upstairs. My head snapped up. Lissa, her yoga class was over. Panic flared, cold and sharp. I slammed the laptop shut, shoving it under the bed, heart pounding. The air was thick with the scent of my own fear, mingled with the lingering perfume of her deception. Honey, you down there? Her voice, cheerful, innocent, floated down the stairs. Yeah, just looking for something, I called back, my voice rough, forced. I scrambled to compose myself, to erase any trace of my frantic investigation. The laptop felt like a ticking bomb beneath the bed. She came down, a faint smile on her face, holding a small, brightly colored yoga mat. Everything okay? You look a little pale. Her eyes, usually so easy to read, now seemed to hold a flicker of something I couldn't quite decipher. Was it concern? Or was it a subtle probe, testing my composure? Just tired, I lied, the words tasting like ash. Long day. She nodded, seemingly satisfied. But as she turned to go back upstairs, I caught a glimpse of her reflection in the darkened window. A fleeting, almost imperceptible smirk. Or was it just the trick of the light? My mind raced. How deep did this rabbit hole go? Was every smile, every touch, every word she uttered a calculated lie? I knew now. The affair was a smokescreen. The suicide attempt, a brilliant, diabolical manipulation. Lissa wasn't a victim. She was a master strategist, a criminal mastermind who had used my love, my guilt, and our shared life as her personal playground. And I, the trusting husband, had been her biggest mark. The thought was a bitter, chilling truth. The game had just escalated, and I was no longer just playing to survive. I was playing to win. Her smirk in the window, it wasn't a trick of light. It was a challenge. The faint smirk I'd caught in Lissa's reflection, that fleeting, almost imperceptible twist of her lips, haunted me. It was a silent declaration, a chilling confirmation that she knew more than she let on, that her concern was just another layer of her elaborate performance. The guest room, once my refuge, now felt like a strategic outpost. The air, thick with the scent of her perfume from her frequent visits, felt less like comfort and more like a subtle, pervasive form of surveillance. I continued my silent hunt, moving through our house like a phantom. Every time Lissa left for her yoga or coffee with Sarah, I was at her laptop, a digital archaeologist digging through layers of deceit. The ledger I'd found was just the beginning. It led me to encrypted chat logs, to burner email accounts, to a web of shell corporations and offshore transfers that made my head spin. This wasn't just petty theft. This was a sophisticated operation, meticulously planned and executed. What kind of person lives such a meticulously crafted double life, smiling in your face while systematically dismantling your shared future? What level of cold calculation does that require? The rhetorical questions echoed in the quiet house, each one a fresh wave of disbelief. The scale of the fraud was staggering. Hundreds of thousands, yes, but it wasn't just from the daily grind. They were using our business as a conduit, a legitimate front for a much larger money laundering scheme involving multiple small businesses across the Pacific Northwest. Trevor, it turned out, was not just a colleague. He was Lissa's primary contact, her co-conspirator in this intricate dance of deception. The symbolic image that kept flashing in my mind was a beautifully constructed spiderweb, glistening with dew, but designed to ensnare and destroy. I found a series of messages between Lissa and Trevor, not about their affair, but about new clients and expanding the network. They were discussing targets, vulnerabilities, ways to exploit loopholes in small business regulations. Lissa wasn't just a participant. She was actively strategizing. Her intelligence, which I had always admired, now turned into a weapon against me, against everyone. The metallic tang in the air, once associated with fear, now felt like the bitter taste of betrayal and cold, hard ambition. One particular chat log sent a chill down my spine. Lissa had expressed concern about loose ends, specifically a former associate of Trevor's who was asking too many questions. Trevor's response was chillingly calm. "Don't worry, Lissa. He's been handled. Quietly. Handled." The word hung in the digital air, ominous and heavy. Was this just about money, or was there a darker edge to their operation? The thought sent a fresh wave of nausea through me. I also discovered that Lissa had been subtly manipulating our business's financial reports for months, making our profit margins appear slightly lower than they actually were. Not enough to raise immediate alarms, but enough to create a buffer, a hidden reservoir of funds that she and Trevor could tap into without immediate detection. It was a slow, deliberate bleed, designed to go unnoticed. The more I uncovered, the more the pieces of her remorseful wife act fell into place. The public Facebook confession, a brilliant move to garner sympathy and paint herself as a victim, redirecting attention from the real crime. The suicide attempt, the ultimate emotional blackmail, designed to trap me in a web of guilt and ensure my continued silence and cooperation. She needed me close, not out of love, but out of necessity. I was her unwitting shield, her alibi, her cover. I remember one evening, Lissa came into the guest room, her eyes wide with feigned concern. "Mark, you're still so withdrawn. Are you sure you're okay? Maybe we should talk about us. Really talk." Her voice was soft, coaxing. She reached out to touch my arm. I flinched, almost imperceptibly. The texture of her skin, once comforting, now felt alien, cold. "Just a lot on my mind," I mumbled, pulling away. "Work's been crazy." She nodded, seemingly satisfied. But as she turned to go back upstairs, I caught a glimpse of her reflection in the darkened window. A fleeting, almost imperceptible smirk. Or was it just the trick of the light? My mind raced. How deep did this rabbit hole go? Was every smile, every touch, every word she uttered a calculated lie? I knew now. The affair was a smokescreen. The suicide attempt, a brilliant, diabolical manipulation. Lissa wasn't a victim. She was a master strategist, a criminal mastermind who had used my love, my guilt, and our shared life as her personal playground. And I, the trusting husband, had been her biggest mark. The thought was a bitter, chilling truth. The game had just escalated, and I was no longer just playing to survive. I was playing to win. The hum of the refrigerator, a constant reminder of the cold, hard truth. The kitchen, usually a place of warmth and shared meals, now felt like a stage set for a very dark play. Lissa was humming, oblivious, preparing dinner. Her cheerful tune was a jarring contrast to the storm raging inside me. I watched her, every movement, every casual gesture, now viewed through a lens of suspicion. The scent of garlic and herbs, usually comforting, now seemed to mask something rotten, something insidious. The evidence I'd gathered was a heavy weight in my mind. The ledger, the encrypted chats, the offshore accounts. It wasn't just an affair. It was a systematic dismantling of our life, our future, our very foundation. The sheer audacity of it left me breathless. How could one person be so utterly, completely deceptive? The symbolic image that kept flashing was a beautiful, intricate clockwork mechanism, but with a hidden gear silently working to destroy the whole. What do you do when the person you sleep next to, the mother of your children, is revealed to be a stranger, a criminal mastermind? How do you even begin to process such a profound betrayal? The rhetorical questions pounded in my skull, relentless. I knew I couldn't confront her yet, not without a plan. She was too cunning, too manipulative. She'd twist, she'd lie, she'd turn it all back on me. I needed an airtight strategy, a way to corner her with undeniable proof, to strip away every layer of her carefully constructed facade. And I needed to protect Mia and Leo. They were the only truly innocent parties in this horrifying drama, oblivious to the earthquake rumbling beneath their feet. My first move was to secure my own position. I quietly consulted a forensic accountant, a discreet professional recommended by Frank, the PI. I explained the situation in vague terms, enough to get him started on tracing the money, on building a case against the shell corporations. The numbers, once a source of comfort, were now a battlefield. Then, I reached out to David and Chris, my two best friends, my only true allies in this nightmare. We met at a dive bar, the kind of place where no one pays attention, where the sticky floors and stale beer smell were a welcome distraction for the pristine, deceptive reality of my home. I laid it all out for them, the affair, the second phone, the suicide attempt, and finally the financial fraud. Their faces, usually quick to crack jokes, were grim. David's jaw tightened, his eyes burning with a quiet rage. Chris just listened, his usual calm demeanor replaced by a steely resolve. "She played you, man," David said, his voice low, almost a growl. "The suicide attempt, that was a masterstroke of manipulation." "I know," I admitted, the words tasting like ash. "But it's worse than that. She's been siphoning money from the business. For months. With Trevor. That hit them harder than the affair." "Our business?" Chris asked, his voice incredulous. They were both minor investors, friends who believed in my dream. The betrayal now extended beyond me, touching them too. The air in the bar suddenly felt heavy, thick with the weight of shared disbelief. "She's not just a cheater, Jason," Chris said, his voice quiet but firm. "She's a criminal, and she's dangerous. You need to be careful. Very careful." His words were a cold splash of reality. Lissa wasn't just a heartbroken wife who made a mistake. She was an antagonist, yes, but also a victim of her own ambition, perhaps even of Trevor's influence. The thought, though unsettling, added a new layer of complexity to the already convoluted situation. Was she simply greedy, or was she trapped in something bigger, something she couldn't escape? We spent hours strategizing. How to get the kids out safely. How to secure the remaining assets. How to expose Lissa without causing a public spectacle that would damage the daily grind. And, more importantly, Mia and Leo. It was a chess game, and Lissa, I realized, had been playing it long before I even knew the rules. But now I was learning, and I was about to make my move. I went home, the plan forming in my mind, cold and precise. Lissa was asleep, curled up on her side, looking utterly innocent. The scent of her jasmine candle still lingered in the air, a deceptive sweetness. I watched her for a long moment, a stranger in my own bed. The anger was still there, a simmering ember, but it was overshadowed by a chilling sense of purpose. The next morning, I initiated the first phase of my plan. I casually mentioned to Lissa that I was considering a major expansion for the daily grind, a new, larger roasting facility that would require a significant upfront investment. I'll need to review all our financial reports, Lissa, I said, my voice deliberately casual. Go over everything with a fine-tooth comb, just to make sure we're ready for such a big move. Her eyes, usually so quick to hide, showed a flicker of something. Surprise? Alarm? I couldn't tell, but I saw the subtle tightening of her jaw, the almost imperceptible clench of her hand around her coffee cup. The bait was set, and she had taken it. The air in the kitchen, usually filled with the comforting aroma of coffee, now crackled with unspoken tension. The game was on, and this time I was playing to win. Her hushed whispers. They were the threads leading to the real puppet master. The anonymous email, that chilling single line about a third party, had ignited a new, terrifying urgency in my silent hunt. Lissa's hushed phone calls, now a frequent occurrence, were no longer just about Trevor or the stolen money. They were about someone else, someone bigger, pulling the strings. The air in the house, already thick with unspoken tension, now felt charged with a subtle, pervasive sense of unseen danger. The scent of her jasmine candle, once a symbol of domestic bliss, now felt like a cover, masking a deeper, more sinister truth. What kind of power does a person wield to make someone like Lissa, so cunning and ambitious, act like a scared rabbit? What kind of web had she truly woven herself into? The rhetorical question spun in my mind, a relentless, dizzying carousel. I intensified my efforts. Frank, the private investigator, was now fully engaged in tracing the anonymous email and delving deeper into the offshore accounts, looking for connections to this mysterious third party. The forensic accountant worked tirelessly, piecing together the complex financial puzzle. My days were a blur of work and covert investigation, my nights a restless cycle of analyzing data and replaying Lissa's hushed conversations in my head. Lissa, meanwhile, was becoming more erratic. Her feigned composure was slipping. She'd snap at the kids for minor infractions, a sharp contrast to her usual patient demeanor. Her eyes, perpetually wide with a forced innocence, now held a frantic, cornered look. She'd forget more frequently, not just about business details, but about our shared history, about things we'd done together. It was a desperate attempt to rewrite reality, to make me doubt my own memories, my own sanity. "Are you sure we went to that concert, Mark?" she'd ask, her voice a little too sweet. I distinctly remember it being a different year. Her gaslighting was becoming more overt, more desperate, but I held firm, my grip on reality unwavering. The symbolic image that kept flashing was a fragile glass sculpture, meticulously crafted, but with cracks spreading rapidly from within, threatening to shatter it completely. Then came the next twist, chilling confirmation of my fears. Frank called me late one night, his voice grim. "Jason, we've identified the third party, or at least who we think it is. It's a man named Elias Thorne. He's a ghost. No public records, no social media. But he's connected to a network of high-stakes financial fraud, money laundering, and other less savory activities. He's known for being ruthless, and he doesn't like loose ends." Elias Thorne. The name itself felt like a viper coiling in the darkness. Not just a criminal, but a ghost, a shadowy figure operating outside the law. Lissa wasn't just a partner. She was involved with someone truly dangerous. The metallic tang in the air now tasted like blood, like fear. "We think Trevor was working for Thorne," Frank continued. "And Lissa, she was either recruited by Trevor or she sought out Thorne directly. Either way, she's deep in it. And Thor doesn't let anyone walk away easily." The implication hung heavy in the air. Lissa wasn't just a perpetrator. She was also a victim, trapped in a web far more dangerous than she could have imagined. Her desperation, her erratic behavior, her hushed phone calls, it all made a terrifying kind of sense. She wasn't just trying to deceive me. She was trying to survive. The antagonist, now also a victim of circumstances. I remembered Lissa's confession about Tom bragging about conquests. Was that a subtle hint, a desperate plea for me to understand the true nature of the threat she was facing? Or was it just another layer of her manipulation designed to elicit sympathy? The moral ambiguity of it all was suffocating. One afternoon, I accidentally left my phone open on the kitchen counter, displaying a news article about a recent high-profile financial fraud case in New York. The article mentioned offshore accounts and untraceable networks. I watched Lissa from the corner of my eye. Her movements faltered. Her hand, holding a coffee cup, trembled almost imperceptibly. She glanced at the screen, then quickly away, her face pale. The bait was set, and she had taken it. Later that evening, as I was working in the guest room, I heard Lissa on the phone again, her voice even more hushed, more frantic than before. "He knows," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "He knows I know. I saw it in his eyes." She was talking about me. She knew I was onto her. The game was reaching its climax. The air in the house was thick with unspoken tension, a silent countdown to the inevitable explosion. The next morning, Lissa approached me, her eyes wide, her voice trembling. "Mark," she began, "I think we need to talk. Really talk. There's something I haven't told you." Her facade was finally crumbling. The truth, like a relentless tide, was beginning to break through her carefully constructed dam of lies. But what truth would she reveal? And how much of it would be another calculated manipulation? The final confrontation was coming, and I had a terrifying feeling it would leave nothing untouched. Her eyes, wide and trembling. Was it fear, or just another act? Lissa stared at me, her face a mixture of shock and dawning horror. She knew I wasn't buying her carefully crafted half-truth. The air in the room thickened, heavy with unspoken truths, with the scent of her fear now mingling with the lingering jasmine. The symbolic image that kept flashing in my mind was a house of cards, meticulously built, now trembling on the brink of collapse. "Pieces missing, Lissa?" I repeated, my voice calm, almost dangerously so, like the fact that you weren't just introduced to Thorn by Trevor. You sought him out. You saw an opportunity, didn't you? A way to get rich fast. And Trevor? He was your partner, not just a gateway. You two were strategizing this long before he ever laid a hand on you. Her jaw dropped. The carefully constructed mask of the manipulated victim shattered. For a fleeting moment, I saw the real Lissa, cunning, ambitious, utterly ruthless. The metallic tang in the air was now the taste of triumph, bitter and cold. And the affair? I continued, pressing my advantage. Was that just a convenient distraction? A smokescreen to keep me from looking too closely at the real operation? Or was it just another one of your opportunities? My voice was low, cutting, each word a precise incision. She tried to speak, but no sound came out. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for an escape, a new lie, a different angle. But there was none. I'd seen everything. I had the ledger, the encrypted chats, the full scope of their financial fraud. Frank had delivered the final, damning report just hours before. The evidence was irrefutable. What kind of person plans such an intricate web of deceit involving their spouse, their business, their very children as collateral? What drives someone to such a level of calculated betrayal? The rhetorical questions echoed in the quiet room, each one a fresh wave of disbelief. The economic instability you talked about? I scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. That was you systematically draining our accounts, making it look like the market was turning. The new clients you and Trevor discussed in your encrypted chats? Those were other small businesses you planned to bleed dry, just like you did ours. Her face was ashen. She collapsed onto the sofa, not with the dramatic sobs of her earlier performance, but with a silent, defeated slump. The scent of her expensive perfume, usually a sign of her presence, now felt like a suffocating shroud, a constant reminder of the secrets she kept. And the suicide attempt, Lissa? I asked, my voice barely a whisper, but laced with a chilling accusation. Was that Thorne's idea? Or was that your own brilliant manipulation? The ultimate emotional blackmail to reel me back in, to keep me silent, to ensure I be your unwitting shield while you continued your criminal enterprise. She flinched, a raw, visceral reaction. That hit home. That was the one truth she couldn't easily deflect. The symbolic image that formed in my mind was a broken mirror, reflecting a distorted, grotesque version of the woman I thought I knew. You used my love, Lissa, I said, the words heavy with a profound sadness. You used my guilt. You used our children, all to protect yourself, to secure your ill-gotten gains. You weren't just a victim of Thorne. You were a willing participant, an eager one even. The silence stretched, unbearable, punctuated only by the distant hum of the city outside. She didn't deny it. She couldn't. The truth, finally, had nowhere left to hide. The air in the room felt suddenly thin, sharp, like broken glass. I have everything, Lissa, I continued, my voice firm, unwavering. Every email, every transaction, every chat log. Frank has traced the offshore accounts. The forensic accountant has built an airtight case. You have two choices. We can do this quietly, through a divorce that leaves you with nothing but your freedom and a public narrative that protects the kids. Or I can go to the authorities, here and in the States, and you will lose everything. Your freedom, your reputation, everything. She nodded slowly, a single tear finally tracing a path down her cheek. Not tears of remorse, I suspected, but tears of defeat. She was caught. There was no escape this time. The silence was deafening. But this time, it was the sound of my own freedom. The confrontation with Lissa, that final, chilling unveiling, left the Lisbon apartment feeling hollowed out, stripped bare. The scent of jasmine, once her signature, now felt like a ghostly presence, a faint, clinging reminder of the deception that had permeated every corner of our lives. The symbolic image that remained in my mind was a carefully constructed facade, beautiful from the outside, but crumbling into dust at the slightest touch. She didn't fight me. She couldn't. The weight of the evidence, meticulously gathered by Frank and the forensic accountant, was too heavy. Her eyes, once so full of cunning, were now just empty, defeated. There were no more tears, no more desperate pleas. Just a quiet, chilling acceptance of her fate. The metallic tang in the air, once the taste of bitter truth, now felt like the cold, clean taste of impending justice. What happens when the person you thought you knew, the one you built a life with, vanishes, replaced by a stranger you never truly saw? How do you mourn a future that was never real, a love that was built on such profound lies? The rhetorical questions lingered, not with anger, but with a quiet, profound sadness. The divorce was swift, clinical. We liquidated our assets, the process handled by a team of lawyers who spoke in hushed tones and avoided eye contact. The daily grind. Our coffee chain was legally separated from her influence, though the financial damage she inflicted would take years to fully repair. I ensured her share was minimal, a fraction of what she had stolen, a bitter irony given her ambition. She signed the papers, her hands steady, her face emotionless. There was no grand exit, no final dramatic scene, just the quiet click of a pen, sealing the end of a decade. She returned to the States, to her parents, to a life stripped of its gilded illusions. I heard whispers, through mutual acquaintances, that her reputation was in tatters, her brave Facebook post now a cruel joke among those who knew the truth. I never saw her again. The silence she left behind was not the suffocating silence of deceit, but the vast, open silence of possibility. Life after Lissa was quiet, profoundly quiet. The Lisbon apartment, once a golden cage, now felt like a vast, empty space. I spent weeks just existing, working, walking the cobblestone streets, trying to find a new rhythm, a new purpose. The scent of fresh sea air, once tainted by her lies, slowly began to feel like a cleansing balm, washing away the lingering bitterness. I never fully recovered the trust one once had. Every new person I met, every new relationship, was viewed through a lens of cautious skepticism. The world, once a place of simple truths and clear intentions, was now a complex, morally ambiguous landscape. I saw the subtle manipulations, the hidden agendas, the carefully constructed facades everywhere. It was a burden, this new sight, but also a shield. I was no longer easily fooled. But in that hardening, there was also clarity. I learned to trust my instincts, that primal gut feeling that at first warned me of the pickup truck. I learned to see beyond the surface, to recognize the subtle signs of manipulation, the quiet whispers of deceit. I learned that some wounds never truly heal, but they can scar over, leaving behind a strength you never knew you possessed. The texture of my own skin felt tougher, more resilient. I sold the Lisbon apartment. The memories, though bittersweet, were still too potent, too entwined with the ghost of her presence. I moved to a smaller, cozier place, filled with my own things, untouched by her influence. I reconnected with David and Chris, their unwavering loyalty a balm to my wounded soul. We talked, we laughed, we rebuilt. They were the true anchors in the storm. The daily grind continued to thrive, expanding even further, a testament to my resilience. It was no longer just a business. It was a symbol of my survival, built on the ashes of betrayal, but stronger, more resilient than ever. Sometimes I'd see photos of Lissa on social media, carefully curated glimpses of a new life, a new narrative. She had remarried, to a man who seemed oblivious to her past, to the dark secrets she carried. I felt no anger, no resentment, just a profound sense of detachment. She was a ghost from a life I no longer inhabited, a character in a story that had finally reached its end. The bittersweet ending. I had won. I had exposed the truth, reclaimed what was mine, and escaped the golden cage. But the cost was immense. The innocence, the unwavering belief in love and trust was gone forever. I was a different man, forged in the fires of betrayal, hardened by deceit. But in that hardening, there was also clarity. I was alone, yes, but I was also free. Free from lies, free from deceit, free from the suffocating weight of her manipulation, free to finally truly begin again. And that, I realized, was a victory worth fighting for. The echo of freedom, quiet but profound, filled the air.